And I do. I loved carnivore. And at that point, though, I still had questions because there were still things I could do better, and I wanted to understand more. And I did. Everyone still has their own issues, even if they're on the magic carnivore diet. There's still problems and stresses.
Hi, everyone. I have Sarah Franklin with me today. I got to know her. We were in some communities together, and she actually spoke as guest speaker and was really helping people figure out some of their health issues. We recently got to meet at Ketocon. We have a shared passion for Costa Rica. And so this was really fun when I got to go down there and do some things, knowing that Sarah has a life and a future planned for herself and her husband down the road there as well. But anyhow, welcome so much. I'm so glad we get to talk today.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so nice to see you and meet you live a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, I feel like I've known you, but when you put an actual body to a person and not just, the face on YouTube and, Instagram and all that, it really makes a difference. So yeah, I started watching some of the Costa Rica reversed, and I'm loving some of that. And I saw a little cameo. I was in there. I'm like, oh, good to know. Yes. But
this was so fun. That was a project that Charles had for me to collect testimonials, and they would do like a Q&A in the TV show. Well, I noticed, I think there were only 3 that made it, and 2 of them were from my friends.
We have good people.
So yeah, you're featured. I can't remember if it's episode 3 or episode 4. But
I think it was 3 because I've only seen up to that point. So I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah. That was
gotta be 3. Okay. And I think what was your question that you asked?
I asked the opinions about organ meats because I know that can be like everyone has their camp, and I just wanted to kind of throw that in there. And I know what my thoughts are, but just loving to hear more input of what others think.
Well, what I thought was so interesting, Kelly Hogan's answer to that question had to do with the whether it tastes good or didn't taste good. That was actually that once the carbs are out and the addictive prep food is out, we don't have this blood sugar ups and downs like causing us to go into that you can trust what tastes good a lot better. And then I felt that Dr. Berry's opinion seemed that he's like, well, it's not bad insurance because of all of the nutrition that's in there.
In my teens, I was a cheerleader. I always wanted to be thin, and, I didn't know what to eat right, and always thought it was just eating low calorie diet, this low fat, that, all of the junk, in the 90s, 2000s, I started Weight Watchers, and I was always just interested what I thought was being healthy. And even in college, I would buy the low fat cheese and all of those things over and over and over. And I wasn't very overweight for a while until I became overweight with doing the same thing and not eating enough for a really, really long time. And there's so many myths out there that now I understand why I was having so many problems. And what first started was when I lost weight after college, I did Weight Watchers. And that was where I was like the leanest I had been in a really long time. I lost all this weight. I felt good. And I went to the doctor, and my blood pressure was through the roof. And they were like, what is going on? I was surprised. They did all the testing. Everything's normal. I had other issues with my hair breaking like crazy, and I wasn't sure what was going on. And it was really short, and everyone was like, did you get your hair cut? And I'm like, no, it's just breaking. And it was awful. So everything being healthy and normal, all my labs were normal. The doctor said, yep, you're all these vitamins, everything's good. But I felt really bad. So I found keto. I started watching and digesting a ton of different YouTubes of a lot of people in the videos in Costa Rica, like Dr. Berry was really instrumental in all the things I watched, and really just said, I'm going to try this ketogenic thing. And it did definitely help.
Did you find Maria back then with all her cookbooks and everything? I did. In my keto days, I had every cookbook she wrote.
I do. I have all her cookbooks for those things. But as I found, I don't want to say lazy, but I'm efficient. Most days it's like, I'm going to eat the meat and the eggs, and I'm very boring. So I don't, maybe on a holiday, I'll make something fun, or for my husband, I'll make something more with all of her cookbook stuff, because it's a little more creative I get on a daily basis. But yes, and there was a lot of different opinions of what to do and how to do it. And once I saw the improvements in my health, I still had weight to lose. Like, I'm like, this isn't right. Like, why am I not losing weight? I'm keto. I eat all these keto foods and I buy that oil and this collagen and all of those things. And it really made me think like, there's got to be something missing. And I did World Carnivore Month in January. Like, all right, I'm going to do this reset. And that's
what year and where did you hear about this? When did carnivore come on the scene for you?
Carnivore, it was 4 years ago in January. So it's been 4 years. And I saw, just hearing about it, like Dr. Baker, like, what is carnivore? And a couple others out there saying it's World Carnivore Month, you should try it. And at first, like, it's a big jump to think you're going to only eat meat. And I think people get there in progressions and baby steps. People do it overnight. It depends on your personality. But that is when everything got so much better. My cycle was more normal. My hair stopped falling out. I had, my blood pressure came down, just my body composition changed. And I really was even working out much less, actually. So it was just a lot of differences in my health. And I stuck with it because it was just easier. And I loved carnivore. And at that point, though, I still had questions because there were still things I could do better. And I wanted to understand more. And everyone still has their own issues. Even if they're on the magic carnivore diet, there's still problems and stresses, and you don't have it all figured out. So I now say I do the opposite of everything I've ever been told. And I went back to school to be a nutritional therapy practitioner, which is holistic nutrition. So we're looking at the whole body. You can't isolate one system, and it's a food first approach, but you also look at other pieces like digestion and sleep and stress and lifestyle and blue light and, all of these other factors that can really be holding people back. Because if you're not sleeping, you could eat a great diet and it's not going to go well. And if you're eating a great diet, but you're grazing all day long, that's different too. So there's just so many caveats to diet that I still didn't know. And I'm glad I do now. And I have a lot more experience even going through those things myself, that I want to help others just get to a place that they feel they can feel their best. Because some people, my mother recently was dabbling with the idea of carnivore. We'll see. I doubt it. But she's like, I can't do what you do. And I said, I don't think you have to right away, right? Like, maybe you don't have to get there overnight. And also I go, well, maybe you're not sick enough yet. And I feel bad saying that, but when you have enough problems and you feel like crap, you're willing to try anything. So some people just may not be sick enough, but my training is ancestrally based. It's a holistic approach. You're looking at the whole body. You can't just take, a supplement for this and think everything's going to magically get better. So there's just a little bit of that background, but it was through the Nutritional Therapy Association. And that is the certification that Judy Cho. So our Nutrition with Judy, she really guided me in that direction and was very helpful. That I was like, this is what I would like to do, is help others when sometimes food's not enough, or even where their food was, now how to optimize other pieces to get your hydration right, your minerals, and all these other maybe missing pieces for people.
You have such a whole picture from that perspective. And so the program that you went through, you said it's based on ancestral health. And so it sounds like it was actually carnivore friendly curriculum.
Yes and no. It was ancestral based. So if you ever look up Weston A. Price, he was a dentist. Yeah. And he traveled around and was trying to just find, in these different areas, like, how do these people have this great teeth if they don't have anything, they're not getting dental care and all of this. And there were a lot of themes that he pulled from. And that's where a lot of this was based off of. So they ate local foods. They were prepared in the correct way. So they may have been soaking rice and beans to get out most of the nastiness. They had animal fats. They ate animal products. They were in the sun. They lived, in just more of a community base. So there was a lot of pieces that was based on. They do still love to talk about their veggies and micronutrients and things like that, which I ignored because I knew it was not necessary. But also my teacher was great, my professor, because he had heard of it and he never pushed, like, if somebody had fiber, you're not going to give somebody a ton of fiber if they have GI issues. You're just not.
Oh, good.
So they really do share that it is a individual approach, because where you are is not where somebody else is. And what I do might be like, no way, no, I'm not even trying. I'm not going that route. But you take somebody where they are, what their goals are, what their issues are, and then you start from there. So it is very bio-individual, which is why I chose it.
Oh, I can tell how much you learned and expanded your mindset so much, and your mastery of nutrition, while you still had to carry out some of the things that you thought that you didn't need to listen to the vegetable part of it.
Yeah.
What convinced you on all meat? Because that sounds so outside of the box. Like what were the components of that to you was like, this sounds right to me?
So I think I was still just eating, I think it was more of the portions. Like when you think ketogenic, like that can mean anything. That can mean, oh, this is a keto food, this is not a keto food. And it should be, are you in ketosis, or, all these other adaptations. And it was so vague. When I started that, I realized I was probably under eating protein, because it was moderate protein. And you don't know what that means. It's so vague. And I think my plate, like I would notice I would eat all this food, and it was like, I was so bloated because I ate a pile of broccoli with some ground beef and some peanut butter on it or whatever, and some fat or butter, and made a lovely stir fry. But I still probably had the majority of broccoli, and no wonder I was bloated and wanted to take a nap. So that volume, always used to just needing that volume of foods. I always had that, like, oh, I can't eat before I go, or I have to just eat a bite because I'm going to look like I'm bloated. And once I said, all right, that maybe makes some sense with I'll try, the meat. I love that part the most anyways. So let's just do the world carnivore. I'll try eating some ribeyes and eggs for, the days. And it ended up being the best thing I've ever done for my health. So
absolutely. From a volume approach, the food is so nutrient dense that it doesn't really take as much volume otherwise.
Yeah, you're diluting your nutrients by eating salads and all of that. It's like packing peanuts. Like you're adding it to the box. It's going along for the ride, but you're throwing it out at the end. So it's really doing nothing at all for your body.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that is so cool. So where you're at now, oh yeah, I did want to loop around to the organ, because I'm just going to ask you a bunch of questions. You are a 4-year carnivore, you're NTP. Are you coaching already?
I am doing coaching. Yes, I have carnivore and non-carnivore, so don't be afraid if you're not. But, I tell people there's levels of diet where you can be as aggressive as you want. If you want to go for, the Ferrari, that's carnivore. And, we can baby step it there. You don't have to go there in one full go. But yeah, I'm coaching people right now. I have different clients, and I'm building my practice. I'm also still training in some other things, because sometimes diet is not enough, and there's other opportunity actually involving our nervous system that really has been a game changer for me again. So whenever you think like all you can know, there's more out there.
That's what I love about your perspective, is you're just like growing and growing and growing, and your knowledge is coming right along with it. And I feel like you are in a rapid, like shooting up period of your life. So yeah, no, it's
second half, right? Or even middle half, who knows? But the organ meats, it's so funny because it depends. I used to like liverwurst. I used to love liverwurst, and growing up, like my grandma had it. So it was something I think I was maybe more used to, but then I was like buying it just to buy it, and I didn't want it. And at one point I had bought supplements because somebody said you have to have liver, you have to have organs and all of that. They're not necessary. They're really not. If you have some micronutrient deficiencies and maybe you've been depleted for a really long time, is it a bad thing? No, I don't think you're going to overdo it. If you were eating it every day forcefully and it was disgusting, it's probably your body telling you stop. Because I do agree, your body does give you feedback. Like if you are stressed out, you will crave fattier foods than if you are not. Your body, to replenish cortisol, a hormone, and other hormones, will crave more fat. If you are doing, other people may need less. So your body is really smart at telling you what it needs if you listen to it. So
How do
some
you
people
tell the
need it.
difference? How do you distinguish? Okay, assuming we made it through the carnivore transition and we're 100% carnivore, there's a huge transition on that part of the story. And how do you figure out if it's maybe like emotional eating or trying to change a mood state? This kind of came up to me when you're talking about eating fat, or when you're like, you're under a lot of stress and the body is needing fat. How do you divide those and figure those out?
It's really difficult and individual, but it's hard because for most people, food makes us feel good. It is, no matter what, even if it's carnivore, like if you're stressed out, it's comforting and it kind of calms you down. So there are times that people should eat and it may make them feel better, but then do you need it? Probably not. I mean, you can go, you can fast and go several days without food, but if you're extra stressed, like maybe you did need that. So it is really going to be individual. You don't want to tell somebody don't eat at all if that's going to make it worse.
Right.
But really it can actually help them feel that better. Like if they're not hungry, that's really easy because like, okay, skip that meal, let's just take a little reset and give your body that time to adjust and calm down, and then eat enough nourishing foods when you are eating. So it is all over the place. It's hard to know. It's hard to know what your body's telling you, but listening to it, if somebody like takes a bite of butter and they're like, I don't want that. Like your body kind of is like, I'm good. I want that steak, or I want that chicken, or whatever else you have. It can be really good of just
each bite gives you feedback, right?
It really does. Like there's days, like usually when I'm out in the sun, come in and I'm like, I'm craving like cold, hard butter from the freezer, or like I want, because I probably need vitamin, if I'm making vitamin D, I probably need that fat to do it. So like I'll notice little things like that here and there. Or if it's around your cycle, some women might be craving like fattier cuts of meat. Like if I'm getting the brisket, I want the fat on the brisket, when I get that. But then other days I'm like, I really want chicken wings today. Like that's probably a little bit leaner. So a lot of times it's just trying to cue in even just what you might want is really good to know, and listen to your body as much as you can when you are eating this clean of a diet. You are
so powerful, and it is so clean. Can you explain the physiology behind why you were gaining weight by undereating for all of those years? Why by you were undereating, you were maybe undernourished to some degree, but you were actually, your body was putting on more fat. Why does that happen?
So there's a lot of reasons. First, I mean, I was eating many, many times a day, right? They tell you, oh, you just eat every 3 hours, right? Like, so you wake up, you have your little breakfast, and then you have a snack, and then you have lunch, then you have a snack, then you have dinner, and then you have another snack. And that's how you keep your metabolism up.
Right.
That is the worst advice you could give. It's absolutely backwards. Not only the amount of times you eat a day, but what you're eating in it. Those are the two biggest factors. So I know I was always snacking because I thought I had to. And then by that snack, I'm starving because I can't use my own body fat. And when you're topping off the tank all day long and you never let your insulin come down. So insulin's our fat storage hormone. And when it's high from especially carbs, that's just gonna make it even higher. And it never really comes back down. If this were body fat burning zone and it's just constantly here, well, you're never getting there. So as soon as you're getting hangry, you're feeling that rush. You're like, I need food now and I need glucose now, and there is none. So I'm going to release a ton from my liver, and now I have a spike, and you're just all over the place emotionally. So that's the one piece. The other was I was eating the wrong foods, where I even did, I had done the low fat version of, having low fat Doritos or whole wheat buns with
Quest chips or something.
Oh my God, protein chips and any of that junk, like veggie straws or whatever any low fat crunchy snack I had, like popcorn. I would eat like bags of popcorn because I'm like, these are 3 points. I can eat a whole bag of popcorn and then drink a bottle of wine and I'm under my calories. Which you are, but you're giving your body no nutrition and you're starving yourself of other things. So it's going to shut down other processes, but I was not feeding my body the right foods. And even though I would eat meat, I always ate meat. I loved meat. it was not the focus of the meal. And even as I got healthier, or what I thought like, all right, now I'm getting better, I'm going to choose whole foods and I'm going to do Whole30 and I'm eating chicken breasts and I'm having fish and I'm having, I think it was mostly chicken breasts. Like I lived pretty much on chicken breasts for years. That's what, and like 99% fat-free ground beef or ground turkey. And it was just so much other stuff with it because you are still really hungry. So
that's what I felt, constantly hungry. Chicken breast still to this day will just make me hungry.
Yeah. I don't eat chicken breast. Rare. It's very rare. Like at a meeting, I requested a special diet because I didn't know what was on the buffet. So I was like protein only, and they got it very wrong. But several times I was just like, can you just give me like burger patties? And then it was fine, but they didn't understand protein only. They kept giving me other stuff. So, but they brought out a chicken breast the one time and I was like, well, it's still protein. And it ended up being not terrible, but I had to add butter to it because I was like, this is just getting the job done right now.
Oh my goodness. So it's sounding like you definitely are on the high fat carnivore, or you're not afraid to add fats. And so what benefits are you seeing from that approach?
I eat enough fat. I think like we get in these camps of, is it high fat? Is it high protein? Is it, too much protein? Is it too much fat? And you don't know the exact situation. Like you don't want to eat too much fat that you are at the expense of protein. And you don't want to eat only protein that's maybe too lean, that doesn't have enough fat, that now you're having other complications. So you can have a day where you ate leaner, but like your body's going to eventually start kind of craving some other things. So I do eat a decent amount of fat. I prefer red meat majority of the time. Like I would say I'm more like bacon, eggs, butter, for the most part. That's like my favorite, bacon, eggs, butter, and beef. So those are my favorite foods that I eat that the majority of the time.
It doesn't even have to be a program. Triple B and E is just what you like.
Yeah, I just like that. I do love salmon. I love raw salmon though. If you cook it, take it away. Like I need it to be just cold and raw because I can taste a little bit more of that fat, and especially when it's warm out, like that's something I do enjoy. But yeah, I'll have oysters as well in there, shrimp. Like there's things that I do get when I'm out, or I have a great seafood market not far from me. So I'll get all those things like once or twice a week. But the majority I eat is red meat because I like it and I feel good on it. Yeah.
Do you prioritize getting fish once a week? And what is it that, do you have like a reason that you're doing that from a nutrition standpoint, or is it just when you crave it?
It's more when I crave it. I think some people that are going through more stress on their body need more omega-3s. So that is something that can be helpful to do, as well as minerals. Like when they're under more stress, you need more salt, more minerals. So oysters can be really good. So just different things like that. I'll adjust like, all right, that was a really hot day, or like, I really could go for that cold salmon. Like I'm kind of craving that. So I'll go get it. And like I do eat it more in the summer, probably because it's lighter and cold. In the winter, I want the hot ribeye with, some butter on the side. But yeah, I try, I don't have like a goal, like I have to eat this week. Some people do, but I try to just think what I need and mix it up enough that I get all of my nutrients covered. But
what about the sardine trend? Are you trying any sardines over there?
I am not for trends like that where it's just lean, crazy, do like, oh, you think this works? Jump over here and try this. But I have eaten sardines. I actually don't mind them. I have them in my cupboard and I will eat them. I do like the bone-in ones, like weirdly, and I give one to my dog. Like I'll eat a couple, I give it to my dog, but it's like a side to something else. It's not by itself. The one time I had it, the first time I warmed it up with cream cheese because I was like, okay, that was better. But yeah, it's too lean for me most of the time that I'll have a little bit and I'm like, okay, I'm good.
I'll sometimes try it with primal mayonnaise. I was going to ask you, do you make your own mayo? Do you do like the bacon, the butter mayo, and do you keep it around? How much mayonnaise is in your life?
I don't do a ton of it. I have just recently it was Memorial Day weekend, and I made I did make for the family party, bringing the bacon mayo, because I thought I'm not going to have everyone else can eat junky mayo, and I will bring my bacon mayo or my butter mayo. But I usually just use the bacon grease because there's usually enough of it that we buy pork belly a lot. So I have a jar of fat that it's easier to just use.
That fat is super soft. It's very similar texture to mayonnaise. And so, yeah, it tends to work really well. Can you just educate my listeners about seed oils? We were talking about mayonnaise, and that kind of got me to that topic. And which ones specifically are kind of the major ones? And can you explain to us why this concept about how long it sticks around the body?
So seed oils are terrible. They're manufactured. They're cooked, like, I think it's like 9 times before.
Wow.
They're heated like 9 times before it even gets to being deodorized, then bleached. So you can't tell that it's gone bad. And
it's rancid. It's technically rancid.
It's technically rancid. So these rancid fats, when you eat them, it is like sending like smoke signals in your body. Like you're having, all of this, and that's the reactive oxygen species. So you're getting definitely inflammation in the body from that, because the body thinks it's fat, starts building things out of it, and it's really not good. And our cell walls are made of fats, and you need it to be a permeable membrane where the good stuff can go in and the bad stuff can go out. You don't want it to be too hard from these bad oils that you're keeping the bad stuff in and good stuff out, and vice versa. And that is the actual, you're built out of fat. So each cell is made of that, and we don't want to have it be something that is foreign to the body. It's very inflammatory. That if it's not from an animal, don't use it. I know that people will use like coconut oil or avocado oil. I'm not super opposed to those. Animal fat is number one, but the quality with those, you just don't know. There can be many fillers. You don't know what the process is. So the more processing, the worse it is. And you just don't know what they're doing behind closed doors.
They could actually be seed oils, primarily seed oils, right? From a vegetable oil or something like that.
Right. Like a lot of, I think it was Aldi's, but I don't want to, they had found and tested it, and it was like their avocado oil was full of soybean oil. So yeah, not great. That you want, like, the worst of the worst are the canola oil, vegetable oil, soy. Those are the big ones that are in everything as well, because it's cheap and it's shelf stable, but yeah, it is not good. And they say high heat cooking. So almost anything time you go out, it's better to cook your own food, because they're probably cooking it in those oils. I always tell people I'm allergic to it, and that I need it to be cooked in butter if it's not in its own fat. And I don't know if they do it, but at least I tried.
Yes. You said your little piece.
And when I tell them it's an allergy, I hope they like applied, I have an allergy to these seed oils, so I need it to be cooked in butter. And okay, usually it's not a big deal, but
yeah, I know. I don't have Ben Asadi has like a little card of some kind that if you just sign up for his newsletter or something, you can get a free, and it has, I'm allergic to whatever, and it has it all listed out. So I need to grab that for the restaurants, because it just feels like such a pain. You're like, oh, I don't want to explain this again. And, but it's worth it. It has big consequences. And help me understand the length of time that from the time you eat a seed oil, like it's long, right?
It is. I don't know the exact amount, but your body, like if you're able to clear out old cells, if you're able to get into some fasting and some autophagy, which is that self-repair and recycling of the cells, and apoptosis, whereas the cell death of the bad things, I do think you can probably purge some of those if it were possible, but it's not really known. I don't really know. But avoid, there's years of things that you're probably purging anyways. If you're carnivore, like you had oxalates for so long, and you're just detoxing from years of eating whatever you ate. So the longer you're carnivore, the better, and it'll just get better and better.
Oh my gosh. So you mentioned fasting. How has that been part of your keto journey as well? And do you still fast as a carnivore?
Yeah, I really didn't fast much when I was keto. I thought when I first started, I thought I was fasting. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do all of this. I'm gonna jump right in, right? So I'm gonna eat low fat or eat this and high fat, and I'm gonna have this buttery coffee. And like I'm not going to eat till noon. And I remember the first day I was at work, I was driving and I had like this buttery coffee and I was like shaking and like blurry. And I'm like, what is going on here? I'm like, I better eat. Like, this is not good. So if it's like taking your whole body, if you were a diesel car and then being like, now I'm just giving you gas and you're like, what? Like the whole engine was like, so that did not go well. But I learned, and when I started with keto, I really didn't do a lot of fasting. I thought I tried it. I was like, yeah, that's maybe not for me. But as I went carnivore, it just happened more and more naturally that I was eating later. I wasn't as hungry. And I was mostly eating 2 meals a day for the most part. But then I did get into a lot more fasting when I was still having some problems, or I'm like, the weight was still kind of stuck and I didn't know exactly. Yeah. I've even gained weight on carnivore when I just forced fat, because there are influencers out there that push fat to the limits for people and say, this is the only way, like, is you have to have this glucose level and these ketones, and that may be helpful in the beginning to get somebody and really lower their insulin and help them gradually get into it. But the forcing of the fat will make you gain weight if you're not hungry for it. And it's excess of what your body needs at that moment, you can absolutely gain weight. So when I did that, and that was the wrong thing to do.
Okay.
I found fasting was just that much better. Like, from a state of ketosis, fasting was much easier. So knowing that, I'm able to fast, like, I think actually right now it's been almost 48 hours into my fast this week.
Oh,
Like,
right on.
I like to do like usually a weekly fast, just to feel the best I can. It kind of keeps me regular, and I am actually not hungry. Like, I don't force it. Like you guys, I know, talk about that. Like, if I'm not hungry, I try not to eat. And that is, when I do force it, I usually feel worse. Like, we were at a barbecue and I'm like, I'm really not hungry. But they made me burgers. I should just eat it. And I did. And I was like, okay, I ate 2. And I was like, I just don't really feel good. I felt better when I wasn't hungry. So
I know the fasted state can feel so good. And then I hate it when you have that like regret, like, oh, I ruined it.
and I think it's great. Like, there are people that aren't hungry ever that definitely need to tune into their bodies and eat enough to get there. But once you're nourished and carnivore, like, and you're not hungry, you can delay that. You can delay that meal. And you just have to eat enough when you're eating. Like, you need enough protein. And if you're in ketosis, you're not wasting away muscle, you're protecting your muscle. Yeah. And yeah. And working out, like, the other thing, like you mentioned, like, just the weight, like, that's another thing so many people just do to excess. And that's where I think all these pitfalls are. So whether it's fat, fasting, or working out, it might be good for you, but more is not always better. And that is so hard. Yeah.
And we get unbalanced in our head and we think that we'll get faster results if we step on the gas with these certain modalities. That's going to get us closer to our goals, when it usually actually pushes us further away.
It does. It really does. And I've learned it the hard way too. I've been there. I mean, I would do, even when I started keto, I'm like, oh, I'm going to just work out at 5 a.m. fasted. And I did it 5 days a week, doing this HIIT boot camp, calorie burn, max this. And I was exhausted in those classes, first of all, but it was not good on my body. I was inflamed and I wasn't losing weight. And now I know why, because if it's very stressful on your body, and we need to just put in. And more is not always better, but lifting weights is great. It does help you keep more muscle, which is more metabolically active than fat, and can soak up more of, if there were blood sugar things. And yeah, it's just more metabolically active, that it's and better for longevity for your brain. There's just so many other benefits to having more muscle. So
what's your workout routine like?
I've changed it up over the years. Now I am very, very efficient. I usually do a push and a pull day, and it depends on the week. Most times it's every other day, or if I am doing it multiple days in a row, I mean, it's only 20 minutes long max. Nice. I do the reps till failure, and then I'm done with it, and then I rest. So a lot of that time is not actually active actively working out. It's do the muscle, you know, whatever muscle I'm doing. It's usually a full body movement. If it's a squat, you're using a lot of different muscles. And then till failure that you absolutely can't do one more with bands most of the time. Because those are bands or the TRX. Those are my two favorite things. Variable resistance. And then I will rest. And then I will do the next set once I regain. But yeah, I've really cut it way back, and the less is more for me.
Wow. Are you doing that at home or do you do it at a gym?
I do it at home. Ever since they shut all the gyms down, we had already had a TRX in the basement for mostly like January time when the gym would be insane. I'm like, I am not going there and fighting with all these people. So we got some stuff at home, and then we've done more and more. But the bands I always tell my clients, like, they're like $50 for some of these really thick, heavy circular bands that I recommend. And it's a really good investment because they're not expensive. You can take them anywhere. Even the TRX, you can throw it in your basement, or you can hang it on a door. So it's really versatile for a good workout.
Oh my goodness, that's so cool. I wanted to ask you about your experience with the high fat and how long did that last? And were you tracking macros and such, or were you just kind of getting more butter? And were you looking at ketones? Like, what was that journey like? So obviously there was something, you know, it was a big trend. I went with it, and it did not, okay, for me, improved my sleep, my energy, and my mood. Weight just leveled. But that I was hoping that would come down a little bit during that time. So it didn't go up, it just leveled. And for me, it did kind of get me back into my love of water fasting. I was just like, whoo, I'm so glad to get a break from this. I'm back to water fasting. Did you actually like have a number? Did you gain like 10 pounds or, you know?
I gained. Yeah. And I was like, this is not for me. So the first sign though, it was hard because I remember like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have some fat. I'm going to add some butter to this. And I ended up like getting my cycle like right on time. I was like, oh, apparently I needed that. Like that was, and I was still a little irregular at that time. So I'm like, I must need fat. And I probably did. But then there is an influencer out there that has a big following and said you needed to eat 12 to 15 tablespoons of butter a day, which is basically a block of Kerrygold. And you had to have it in the morning as a snack, in the middle of the day as a snack, and for dinner. Oh yeah. And maybe before bed. Like it was just push. So I tried, and it was terrible. I mean, I did end up feeling a little bit better at the time. Like I needed to maybe get some fats. So maybe the first week or two, but then like I was never hungry. And if I was like, fat wasn't doing it. And I was under eating protein substantially because it was only, I think they recommended like 9 ounces a day of meat, which is very, very low. And it's not enough. So I did have struggles that I gained a lot of weight and realized, you don't force feed your body anything. The fat is good. But it is at a level. I mean, you can't just force yourself, and your body, like, yes, calories have a place, but they're not the end all be all. Like the fasting, I think, and feasting are where it's at. That if you're eating enough, your body will tell you when it's hungry. It'll tell you to stop when it's full. And you can eat fat, and it doesn't mean you're going to gain fat. And you may need it because it may really help if you've been under a lot of stress. It may really help you kind of, nourish, get some reserves, replenish your hormones, and then you can fast and eat naturally.
You know, it's funny though, when you were talking to me about this, it actually did sound just a little bit like priming how you were feeling, right? It was obviously on a high fat approach, so it's a little different, but it really did motivate you to kind of find your own rhythm with it. So definitely. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about leptin resistance, and does carnivore help that situation, or could fasting help that situation?
Yeah, this is a big one. Like if you search for leptin, you're going to find leptin, right? Like there's a lot of things out there that this is the only problem. And while that can be an issue, it's probably not for most people. And once again, it's just to excess. Like if somebody is never eating, if they are starving in the morning and they're pushing that to eat much, much later, that's too much on their body. So you're going to have issues with hunger signaling. And that's what leptin is doing. Like leptin and ghrelin are these opposite hormones. Like ghrelin, your stomach growls. Leptin, you're more, but they can be messed up. Your signals can be messed up if you've been eating a standard American diet or not been nourishing your body properly. So there are things, yes, I love being in touch with their circadian rhythm. I think it's great to get up in the morning, get outside. Like first thing I usually do is get outside and let the dog out. And I'm outside. So I do that, brush my teeth, a couple of things, and then we go for a walk. Like I like to be outside first thing in the morning. It kind of sets me for the day. It can help regulate your hunger hormones. So I think a lot of that is great. That being said, I don't think leptin is the end all be all magic pill that is often touted.
Gotcha. It sort of comes into line with all of the hormones balancing out. Is that kind of how that, it's a hormone communicator, right? And so as the other things come into play, then it settles it down as well. So no, good.
But stress by itself, so anything, cortisol, which there's no bad hormones. I mean, they all have a job. Cortisol is there, which when there's a stress that it helps us run away and all of these things, fight or flight and danger. So it preserves body fat because it thinks we're going to need this reserve. And there was never a need to lose weight in nature. Like we needed to keep our bodies, with enough nourishment to get through a winter or be able to fast and all of these things. So, that's the hard part is we're not built to lose weight. So it's harder to undo some of that than it is to gain weight. But these hormones like cortisol, it is going to be the priority because that's survival. So like if there's a pathway at the top, cortisol is like number one. And then like the other sex hormones are going to be underneath that cascade. So if you're only fueling that, those are going to go to the side. So if we kind of bring the stresses down and refeed and make everything whole again, then you can, you're going to feel much better.
Oh, amazing. What are the other hacks that work into you kind of mentioned, do you do grounding at all? I heard you do the sunlight in your eyes, like some circadian rhythm, right? What are some other things that have found really helpful?
The things I do on a daily basis, I do like to get outside first thing. I minimize blue light at night. Nice. That is a big one. When it's dark, there shouldn't be this bright glaring light telling your body it's noon. Like that's going to mess you up. You're not going to sleep. I do have blue blockers if I am going to be watching TV or something. Don't watch a ton of it now that it's late until it's almost time for bed anymore, where I am. I do grounding as well. I just like being outside and being barefoot. I just never really like to wear shoes. So I do that most of the time in the summer.
That's a natural.
Yeah. However, I live in Buffalo, New York. So in the winter, it is snowy and I am not barefoot outside. I'm just not doing it. And I have a grounding mat that I'll sit on like while I'm on the computer here and there. I have it on the couch if I'm watching TV. So I have like 2 of them in the house for like the winter. I think it's a good thing. Just anything that is more like how we used to live. We're meant to be outside. We're meant to be in the sun. We're meant to eat foods that were species appropriate. Yeah. Things that didn't exist millions of years ago, we use, right? Because I'm not going to live in a cave and not have plumbing, but there's other things you can do to try to just be more in touch with ancestral ways of living your life.
When someone is stuck and they're not progressing on carnivore and there's like a whole new training that you're looking into and you're looking at some of the nervous system is what I heard you get into. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So this is my new passion that I'm just so excited about. I actually met this woman, her name is Jess, the carnivore mummy, and she was in the steak and butter gang, did your priming and feasting and fasting and had amazing results. And I listened, I think a guest that month too. So I was listening in like, oh, I'm going to listen to this. And then I'll do my spiel later. And when I heard her talking about this neuro reset technique, NRT, she was describing it as, if you have pain in the body and, we can help with that. And I've always went to a chiropractor. I would go to 2 chiropractors once a month. One that was the crack it kind, and the other one was the soft tissue one. And I got a massage once a month. And I thought, this is life. Like my shoulder hurt. I love Costa Rica, but I got hit by a big wave one time and I got really hurt. So I was standing in like really shallow water and I turned around and a wave crashed over my head and plunged me into the ground that I like snapped my neck really hard and chipped a tooth. It was rough. So ever since then, I've had a lot of neck and shoulder pain, rightly so. And what NRT is, it's just a rare form of muscular therapy, but you're using the brain and the nervous system because that's what's controlling your muscles. So you can optimize muscle function, your strength, control, and the muscles you recruit. So a weakness in our nervous system actually shows up as pain and tightness and restriction. And those are the things that people have, like chronic pain, or, their neck hurts, their head hurts, like all of these things are something else manifesting, and it's the nervous system. So I'm going to be doing that shortly with clients. So after working with Jess and having so much success myself, with all kinds of pieces, because there's so much more to it than even just the muscles. But it's just taking loads off the nervous system, and I sleep better. I'm calmer. I deal with stress much better. So it's a whole missing piece that I didn't have with diet alone and was missing. So I can't wait, especially those with like autoimmune conditions. Our systems are haywire. So our autonomic dysregulation, when you're, supposed to be resting and repairing, or, it could be just all over the place, where people are having food issues and histamine reactions and all of these things, because I had all the food reactions that I ate, like steak only, for a really long time.
That's right. You had a real histamine issue. And what are you advising to folks that are in that situation? How did you get out of that?
Yeah. So with NRT, that is how I got out of it. Changing my thought pattern. It sounds crazy, but your body decides at a non-conscious level what is safe and what is danger, and you have no input. You can there's ways to do different things, but my body saw different foods as a life threat and reacted, in that manner. So there was just, things that changed for me once I'd taken the physical stress off of my body, that I have much less reactions to. I'm able to repair and detox. And so many of the issues that people see are, if they've never really been able to get in that state of rest and digest and repair and cleaning out old cells, well, then it's like never running your dishwasher, and they're just jamming more junk in, and there's growth, and it's all this other stuff that you have to address. And that can manifest in a lot of problems. So
wow, you came across something that's helping you really clear the path for yourself. And so that's incredible. And that ties into mindset. I know you have like something really specific that you're doing. Your entire journey, what have been some of the most successful mindset habits or practices?
Mindset is tough, because when you're in it, like, you can't get out of your own head, and it's really hard sometimes. And I have days where I cry, right? Like, that was bad. And that's
good though. The crying is good. Right?
Let it out. Seriously, let it out. Don't hold anything in. I have different quotes. I have different people I talk to as well, but the community is great, because if you have somebody that is either sharing your struggles or understands it, it's just so much more helpful. Because if you have no one to tell, like, this is your problem, then you're really in your own head, and you need to get it out. And getting it out is hard. Like, if your friends and family have no idea, like, I can't eat anything and I'm not sleeping and and you're just like at a party and that's all you're thinking about. If you're able to talk about that with other people and get things to try and successful habits to mix in, and there's just a lot I think that community really does, and as well as expressing yourself, a positive mindset, positive self-talk, which is hard again, and I've done it too, where you don't say anything to yourself you wouldn't say to someone else. That's a hard one, but it's true. You shouldn't say certain things to yourself when you're.
I love when I bring up difficult topics that you give straight, honest answers. That means so much to me though. Like, I'll throw something your way, you're like, that is tough. And that is tough. And like, we can't just like use our little easy magic wand and wave this little thing and say, oh, you just need to have a better mindset. Like, you have to work for it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It is hard. I mean, like you said, when you're in it, you have to do things that get you out of that funk, and like, what's going to make something that makes me happy. Like, I'm going to walk my dog, and I'm going to listen to music or, go play with the kids or whatever it is. It's something that you just have to be happy and try to take things less seriously. I know it is hard when you're in it, but getting out of it for a little bit can help you kind of look at it from the outside and
Wow.
getting it off your chest.
How are your priorities changing over time?
They've changed a lot. I think everyone kind of finds, maybe not everyone, but keto carnivore, I feel like people find it for weight loss. They start there and then realize, oh, it helps some other things. But then there's other things that still stick around. For me, it was food sensitivities, and I thought I needed gut healing, and I thought I needed this supplement and all of those. And I went down that rabbit hole. I bought all the crazy probiotics. I did parasite cleanses that were really expensive. I got the gut testing where you poop in a box and mail it away and be like, do I have a parasite? Do I have this? And we're going to send you this magical everything. And none of it worked. So I think it was just, or these hair mineral tests, like there are so many things. If your body is unhappy and not in a good place, there's going to be red light, there's going to be issues all over the place. And until you can get everything settled down, then those will start to go away. And that's kind of where now I've transitioned from, yes, I still want to look like I work hard, because I do. I eat very, nourishing foods, and I like to, I want to be healthy and I want to have muscle, because that's going to make me be here until I'm, old, and I'll be able to get out of the chair and not be breaking hips and all of those type of things. Like I'm here for the long haul. And that's where I've changed the way I work out, the way I, do a lot of these things, because I don't want to overdo it in one area to, take away from something else. And that's changed a lot. That's changed the most for me, where it was like, I just got to look good and I got to get lean and I got to fast and I got to, I think someone made the analogy before, like if you're supposed to bake a cake, like for, 20 minutes and throw it in the oven and at the low temp and whatever, and you threw it in at, 800 degrees for 30 seconds and it came out like crap. Like, well, why are you surprised that it came out like crap? Well, because that's not the way you need to do it. So it is slow and steady. No one wants to hear that. We're all about instant results, myself included. It's never easy. I've gone through it. I'm still going through it. I'm always going through it. And even when you think you're like, oh, once I do this, I'll be happy. There's just more. There's always something more. There's always something you want to do next. Or if you hit that goal, what's your next goal? So I feel like it always changes. And even though you've maybe done some good things, you're just not exactly no one's where they want to be. And you don't know what's even going on behind closed doors. What somebody might look like doesn't mean their health is where it needs to be. And that's so hard with all of social media, is you can look one way and feel another.
You are a true speaker, Sarah. You are, what I hear you saying right now is how much of you're becoming process oriented, not results oriented. And you're like slowing it down, taking those breaths, giving yourself grace, giving grace to everyone else, and speaking the hard truths. I can tell you're an incredible coach, and people need to hear that. Well, they want to hear the quick fix, and they want to hear, I can get you from here to here. They don't want to hear that the actual goal is to lean into their own process and to have so much doling of self-love and grace to them as they're growing, because growing hurts and it's hard and you feel impatient. You feel like you should come together really quickly. But I can just hear that you see the truth about that, and you're not going to trick anybody and tell them that there is a quick fix. That you don't.
I wish I had a magic wand, right? That I could say, poof, your problems are gone. And, that would be amazing, but it's just not reality. And I am more of a direct person. I try to be upfront with people, saying like, it's going to be, there's a way to do it. It may not be easy all the time. And that's why you need somebody to, when you are struggling, to say, I need help. This isn't working. Okay, then we're going to try this. And if that's not working, get another set of eyes that has done this with other people, has seen the results, has, made the changes. And if you're not getting that, there's so many people out there that are coaches or whatever, and you don't know you don't know the background. And for the average person, somebody, if they were drinking, 2 liters of Pepsi a day and eating cake, and now they're keto, like they probably had a huge change, and that might be enough for them. And that might have made all the difference. But somebody that's already been eating, very low cal and thinks they're doing all the right things and has to come back and nourish themselves before they can do a cut or any of this to lose weight. If you're only eating 800 calories a day and you think you're going to cut more, well, that's not going to work. You have to refeed your body first. So it's just very hard sometimes for people to hear. And when they see somebody do it so easily and them struggling so much, that makes it even harder to watch, because they're like, well, this person, all they did was go vegan and then they lost all this weight. It's like, but do you want it to be temporary, or do you want it to be for the long haul? So
absolutely. Well, I love how you said the Ferrari example, and I feel like you are Ferrari level in your life. I know your husband likes Ferraris, right?
At Ketocon, he's so funny, but he came to Ketocon with me, which was awesome. I'm like, do you want to go? He's like, yeah, I'll go. And he met everybody. And the last day, I'm like, do you want to be in all these talks? And he's like, no. And he rented a Ferrari, or not a Ferrari. It was a Corvette. I'm sorry.
Oh,
yeah, it was a red Corvette, and he picked me up to go to lunch. So it was fun. So he drove around Texas in a Corvette for Ketocon.
I love it. No, it's high quality that we're after, and it's full of struggle. The road is full of hard work. It's earned. It is simple. It's not easy. Yeah. I love the simplicity that you have found, and the complexity that you allow your clients, people you work with, all like you are providing a very simple path, and yet you are so open that it's probably will likely be a bumpy, simple path, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're going to have bumps along the way. Healing is not linear. Like I've recently even had a lot of stress in my life that you could be eating perfect and doing everything perfect, and you can have a ton of stress and you can gain weight, and it's going to happen. Like some things you can't control. So what you can control is your food and, most of the time your sleep, and just the things you can do, and try to just be nice to yourself, because I'm even guilty of like, oh my God, I didn't do that, or I used to do this, and just sitting back and slowing down. We never want to hear to slow down. We always think we have to speed up. So.
Wow. You have wonderful advice. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your heart and your thoughts on things. I am just really moved and impressed. I know this is going to be an encouragement to many people. So what do you have next coming up? What are you most excited about that are developing? You're using your NRT, right?
Yeah. So very soon I will be offering Neuro Reset Technique, NRT, to clients. So if you have muscle pain, tightness, weakness, range of motion, mobility issues, we can test certain muscles and check them, and there are instant results. So that's actually,
and that one's remote. You can do it on a Zoom call type of thing.
Do it via Zoom. So it is remote. It would be ideal in person, but I've been doing it only remote with Jess in New Zealand. So it works. And so I'm really excited for that. I also am still taking on nutrition clients, because those two things together are probably the superpower, right? If you can do NRT and have the carnivore diet, you're going to be here for a long time. So In the Buff Wellness is where you can find me on Instagram. And my website is inthebuffwellness.com. And someday the buff was part Buffalo, because Buffalo, New York, but a little bit about, being buff. And then someday maybe Costa Rica as well. So we have a house. We have a house there. That's the goal, right? Is to live where you want to live, and live happier, healthier, less stressful lives. So
there seems to be a lot of carnivore happy vibes in Costa Rica. That's what I'm thinking. So, maybe that's where the going to be heading.
We fell in love with it. It'll be 10 years ago in July that we went there and we got engaged there. So it's a special place to us already. And the mantra is pura vida, which is pure life. So it's living your life, and that's what it should be about. So yeah, I thank you so much. So Emily, you're so sweet. And, I've always loved how nice you are to everybody. You have great things to say. You're just so calming. And anyone who's been in the steak and butter gang, like, you've just been really, really awesome the whole time. And I've loved meeting with you and chatting with you, because you're just as nice in person as you seem online, and you never know if that's the case. So It's been very, very nice chatting with you.
Thank you, my friend. I hope we can do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.